was the last Merdeka, the last Independence Day, not long time ago. August wasn't that far. So you come back from KLCC that night or one night, celebrating independence. You come back home, sit on your foot, out of the door, about to get in. Surprisingly, or even shockingly, you find someone, a stranger, sitting on your favorite couch, sofa, watching TV. This is your home. Swapping channels. Shocked, you shout, "Hey, what the hell are you doing here? Who are you?" He feigns surprise. He seems to be surprised, not you, the owner of the house, the owner of the home. And he says, "Who are you?" Asks you in return. You shout, "This is my home. Get out of here." He says that I read in my Bible that this home is mine. So get out of here. And he takes a gun and shoots you in cold blood. Your wife also was shot. He shoots your wife. Terrified, your kids run away, hide behind the fridge, under the sofa. 1 hour later, he hears your kids, some noise, looks down, finds your kids, drags them, gives each one a kick in the ass and kicks them out. These kids, as days pass by, every time they pass by their home, they pick up a stone, and as a sign of protest that this home was one day ours, is still de jure ours, though de facto not ours anymore in reality. So as a sign of protest, they pick up a stone and they throw it, on the occupier of their home. This is in brief, and metaphorically speaking, the Palestinian question. This is in short the Palestinian question. It's the question of a people who have been made homeless now for 75 years. I come from Gaza. I was born in Gaza. And so is my wife. But her father was not born in Gaza. Her father comes from what is now Israel. And he cries every day. He's in his 90s now. He cries every day, looking at the key of his home, which must have been replaced by, cries, hoping that he would be able to return or at least go back to his hometown before he dies. The Palestinian question is the question of a people who have been made homeless, stateless. I don't want to talk about the decision made by Dr. Mazura here. I would like to take this opportunity and talk about the Palestinian question. I am not worried about Dr. Mazura's perception of me as being unfit for the continuation here, despite the fact that I might be amongst the few in the department who have managed to publish in Q1 journals. And I don't want here to tell you what Dr. Wan told me and her argument with the big boss about me. You can ask Dr. Wan, who fought. And she told me literally 3 times, I fought for your renewal. last year. As I said, I don't want to talk about this. I would like to take this as an opportunity, because every one of us has a role to play. We are not only facing the juggernaut of the Israeli war machine, which has reduced Gaza to rubble now. We are not only facing that, but we are also facing Zionist disinformation machinery worldwide. My colleague has just told me that even some Malaysians think that Hamas, what do you say, Dr. Put?
They said that Hamas was founded by the Zionists themselves.
Hamas is a decolonization movement. Hamas is a resistance movement. Hamas is a fighting movement. The Palestinian question is the struggle of the people for liberation, for independence from a settler colonialist. We are the only people on earth now still colonized. We have been colonized and we are still under colonialism for 106 years now, since 1917. It began with the British, who were occupying Malaysia at the time, after the defeat of the Ottoman Caliphate in 1917. Palestine came under the British domination, under direct British rule. At that time, and 20 years before that time, in the late 1800s, Jews, and to be accurate, Zionist Jews, not Jews, because real Jews are against actually the state of Israel. So I'm talking about Zionist Jews. These are secular Jews who have nothing to do with Judaism. And our problem, not just as Palestinians, but as Muslims, and in the case of non-Muslims, as free citizens of the world, our problem is not with Judaism. Our problem with Zionism. Judaism has nothing to do with what is happening in the Holy Land of Palestine. This is a political movement. They chose Palestine, and before choosing Palestine, they debated a number of options. In his very book, the founder of Israel, Theodore Herzl, in his book published in 1896, The Jewish State, he actually said that the Jewish question is neither social nor religious. The idea of religion, the idea of the biblical connection, historical connection, I read in my Bible that this land is mine, this idea came after they chose Palestine as a strategic option. In that very same document, pamphlet, by the founder of Israel, Theodore Herzl, who died in 1904, he actually suggested a number of options. He suggested the Congo as a home, or as a place as a homeland for the Jews. He suggested the Argentine. He suggested South Africa. He suggested Mozambique. Palestine was one of these options. You can go back to this document. It's available online. Just write the Jewish state. Theodore Herzl. Palestine was an option. When they debated in 1897 in the first Zionist World Conference, a year after the publication of this document, the Jews wanted a national home, secular Jews, as I said, because real Jews know that it would be against the will of God to have a homeland. They were kicked from Palestine by the Roman Empire about 200 years ago, 70 AD. And they were not allowed by God to have a state on their own. And this is even mentioned in the Quran. God says in the Quran that He dispersed them or tore them into different lands. If you ask rabbis, real Jews, they tell you, you can hear that, American Jews and real Jews, they speak against the state of Israel. And it's not part of Judaism. This is a political movement. So, they chose Palestine as an option. And why Palestine? It was a calculation of profit and investment. Palestine links the two largest continents in the world, Asia and Africa. So because of the geographic location of Palestine, and also because of the minerals in the Dead Sea, riches, so it was a calculation of profitability investment. And Britain, the UK, the British Empire, also found an interest in this, keeping the Muslim Ummah divided after the defeat of the Ottoman Caliphate. So the Jewish state or the Zionist state in Palestine is an Anglo-Zionist colonialist project. Anglo, English, Zionist colonialist project, Western colonialist, Jewish Western colonialist project to keep the Muslim Ummah divided. And since then, by the way, we have been divided for 100 years. Nationalisms. Malaysians, Malaysia, Jordanians, Jordan, Egyptians, Egypt. We are no longer one Ummah as we used to be for 1,200 years. The first Caliphate, Abu Bakr, until 1917. We were one body, one Ummah. No nationalisms. The idea of nationalism is a Western concept. After Europe disbelieved in God because of what the church did to scholars in the name of religion, which has led to atheism and secularism, they would in the name of religion in the West would punish. And who sent Galileo to the guillotines? The church. So Europe disbelieved in God. And most of them, by the way, are Christians by culture, not by religion. I keep digressing. Where was I? So anyhow, the British, when Palestine came under British occupation in 1917, they issued what is known as Balfour Declaration. In that very same year that Palestine came under British rule, Balfour, the foreign secretary at the time, issued what is known as the Balfour Declaration, promising the Jews, Zionist Jews, a homeland in Palestine. And since then, the British began to let Jewish or Zionist immigrants to come to Palestine. When the number or the population of the Jews at the time was only 2% in Palestine. So they allowed for Jewish immigrants wave after wave to come to Palestine, and they provided them with weapons. So in 1948, it was a deal. It was a plan between the British and these Zionist immigrants. The same day British withdrew from Palestine, on the 14th of May 1948, the Zionists declared their state, a state on the rubble of Palestinian villages. As I said, her father was one of the survivors who managed to flee southward to Gaza. Many at the time also fled to the north, Lebanon, Syria, to the east, Jordan, some of which came downward, fleeing, just like what is happening now is not new. It's an event in a series. It's a process. What happened in 1948 was not an event. The genocide, the ethnic cleansing that took place in 1948 was not an event. It was a process, and this process is still ongoing. Systematic ethnic cleansing. It's not new. Actually, 70% of the population of Gaza is also refugees. 70% of the population of Gaza, out of the 2.5 million in Gaza, they are originally refugees who fled in 1948, as I said, one of whom is my father-in-law. It's a process, an ongoing process of ethnic cleansing. What is happening in Palestine, what has been happening until now for 75 years, is a series of ongoing crimes of ethnic cleansing. So what the Palestinians are seeking? We are seeking liberation. We are seeking independence. We are seeking to live like other people, with dignity, with freedom, from this settler colonialist regime, this settler colonialism, the only settler colonialism existing or extant in the world today, the only one. And to add to our pain, they keep on misrepresenting reality, distorting facts, where the victim becomes the victimizer, and the victimizer would be represented as the victim. They have the power, they have the money, they have the media, and who is supporting us? Palestine is not the responsibility. Liberating Palestine, ending occupation, ending this misery is not the responsibility of the Palestinians alone. Every Muslim has a role to play. Every free citizen has a role to play. We should work to disseminate the truth. Not everyone can be in the battlefield, but everyone has a mobile phone. Everyone can play a role in the dissemination of the truth and the liberation of Palestine. Everyone. I'm not asking you to take a gun and go to Gaza. Use your mobile phone. Educate yourself. Know what is happening. Know what is happening. I'll tell you about what is happening. Some people ask me, how are you? How's your family? I sent this Facebook post yesterday. I posted this on Facebook yesterday, answering colleagues, friends who asked me about my family. They are colleagues and friends. You're asking me whether my family is okay. We are not okay under this Israeli brutality and savagery. We are not safe under this ongoing institutionalized settler colonialist bombardment and systematic ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, who are seeking freedom from colonization, seeking independence and self-determination, seeking an end to military occupation and colonialism. An end to military occupation. The Palestinians, at least part of the Palestinians, the PLO, 30 years ago, not Hamas. Hamas knew that this would not be in the interest of the Palestinians, but rather a way to liquidate the Palestinian question. But still, the PLO, a great sector of the Palestinians, signed in 1993 the Oslo Accords. And the Palestinians committed themselves to the three conditions stipulated by the quartet at the time. Recognizing Israel, committing to renounce what they describe as violence, resistance, and committing to agreements and treaties. The PLO accepted that. the Israelis did not withdraw from the 1967 occupied land. In 1948, Israel was founded on 78% of historic Palestine. 78%. The 22% of Palestine left, which constitute the Gaza Strip, where I come from, which is now ethnically cleansed, and the West Bank, these two territories constitute 22% of Palestine. They were occupied by Israel in 1967. 30 years ago, there was an attempt to create, a peaceful settlement, a Palestinian state within the borders of the 1967 occupied land, the 22% occupied in 1967 only. And as I said, part of the Palestinians, the PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat at the time, agreed, okay, but for 30 years, the Israelis have not withdrawn from these lands. And look at the West Bank, the situation is even worse. Hundreds of settlements have been built since then. So we have sacrificed, we have compromised the compromised. We have been willing, at least some Palestinians have been willing to forget about 78% of Palestine and only get 1% for a Palestinian state. It's not the Palestinians. The problem is not us. We have, as I said, been willing to compromise the compromise. But peace for Israel means the elimination of the native. Peace for them means the decimation of every Palestinian. Because they know that they have usurped, they have taken this land without right. This is my home. I read in my Bible. Get out of here. They know they have a security complex. We are seeing an end to military occupation and settler colonialism, an end to the elimination of the native, an end to ethnocide, an end to the systematic crimes of genocide. Israel, this colonialist state, has been committing against the Palestinian people since its de facto creation on the rubble of the Palestinian villages in 1948, systematically, continuously. This is not just an event. Not long time ago, in 2021, Israeli aggression. In 2014, I was in Gaza. 2014, an Israeli aggression for 51 days. The windows of the apartment building where my flat is were shattered. At 1 o'clock, we woke up. I had to hug my children, pacify them. An explosion was nearby. In 2014, 51-day barrage of Israeli strikes, and over 2,500 Palestinians were killed. And now, it's even more intense. Whole residential areas have been leveled. Hospitals, mosques, schools, nowhere safe. Nowhere safe. No one is safe. We are not okay. Where can people go? What is our crime? Our crime is that we were born in that land. Our crime is that we are demanding freedom to live in dignity like all people on earth. We are seeking to end apartheid, an end to the dehumanization and bestialization of the Palestinian people as being animals, and the demonization of their resistance and the freedom fighting movement or groups. Hamas is a decolonization movement. The Palestinian question is a question of people struggling to end occupation. As I said, we were willing to accept a state even on 22%. Not me, by the way, but some Palestinians. I am not willing to sacrifice even an inch of historic Palestine. It doesn't belong to me to give it up. When Herzl came to the Sultan, the last Muslim Sultan, Turkish Sultan, before the British, defeated the Ottoman Caliphate in 1917, he went to the Sultan and asked him to give him Palestine. When they chose Palestine, as I said, it has nothing to do with religion. These, as I said, ideas of connecting it to the historical connection, land of the fathers, land of these ideas were spun and concocted after they made Palestine a strategic option. After all, as I said, in that very same document, there were many other choices like the Argentine, as I said. And why the Argentine? Fertile land. Fertile land. But then they chose Palestine because I said the strategic location of Palestine, and then they began a discourse of the historical connection of the land of the fathers and so they asked him to give them. He asked Herzl to asked the Turkish Sultan to give him Palestine, but he refused. He said, Palestine does not belong to me to give it to you. If you take a pair of scissors and you cut me piece by piece, I can't give it to you. Take this piece of paper and get me the signature of every Muslim worldwide. If you get me a signature of every Muslim, then I can give you Palestine. And he kicked him out. This was in the early 1900s. But when it came, they said Palestine, the British rule, domination, it was the British who brought these threats of humanity to Palestine. But it was, and it's still, a Zionist Western enterprise. The benefit for the Westerns is that they would keep the Muslim Ummah undivided by implanting this cancerous Zionist strange regime in the heart of the Muslim Ummah, in the heart of the Middle East. And they have successfully done this until now. It's been 100 years now. And we keep breaking and disintegrating. And the immigration is playing also a role. Your visa ends, go to hell. This is my country. We are seeking the enforcement of international law. We have no problem. Even this international law, which is unjust, because according to the international law, there are many resolutions that have not been, you see that the problem of the world is that there is no symmetry. Look at the case of the Ukraine, and look at Palestine. Everyone stood with the Ukraine, but not Palestine. We are seeking the enforcement of international law, which is stated decades ago that Israel must end its military occupation. UN Resolution 242 in 1967, when Israel occupied colonized the remaining of Palestine in 1967. In that same year, there was a resolution, UN resolution issued 242, demanding Israel to withdraw from the lands or the territories occupied in the recent conflict, the Gaza and the West Bank. But this was 1967. Israel has not withdrawn. We want the enforcement of international law. International law in 1948, when Palestine was made Israel, Resolution 181 was issued in 1948 asking the new state, the country of immigrants, to allow Palestinians Palestinian refugees wishing to return, to allow them to return. This has not been implemented until now. More than 7 million Palestinians are outside Palestine, and they cannot get back to Palestine. They are not allowed. So we are seeking the enforcement of international law, but it is not implemented because Israel is above the law. It's a Western colonialist project to keep the Muslims divided. And we are the victim. And allow for the return of refugees made homeless for 75 years now, for her father to see his homeland before he dies. We are seeking dignity like other people. We are not okay, dear colleagues and friends. Those who ask me, how is your family? I don't know if my family is still alive. Because if I call them now and they are alive, who knows the next moment whether they're going to be alive. We are seeking dignity like other people. We are not okay. As one of my brothers put it, my own brothers, it is very, very scary. By the way, he left his home north of Gaza because they asked the Gazans living in southern Gaza. By the way, you know Gaza, the area of Taj al-Malim is 3 times larger than the area of Gaza. This Taj al-Malim, 3 times larger. Gaza is a concentration camp. The largest concentration camp. And the Gazans have been held hostages for more than 16 years now. The largest open-air prison, but I don't prefer the prison because it implies that it's a concentration camp. Since Hamas came to power, since Hamas was elected democratically in 2006, the Gaza Strip has come under international blockade and economic strangulation. So he lives I live in the south, but my brother lives in the north. So he said that they were asked to evacuate, to leave from the north to the south. And by the way, many of those who fled from the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza were bombed on the way in the places where no safe place. No safe place. Mosques are being bombarded. Hospitals. You've heard of the hospital yesterday. Over 500 were massacred in a hospital. As one of my brothers put it in a text, in a WhatsApp message to me a few days ago, it's very, very scary. All of our loved ones are martyrs. Loved ones mourn their loved ones, and then there are those who mourn them. I don't know, maybe we will be in the news next, being mourned by others. But our morale is high. Sitting in our land, not budging. I implore you, he says, to pray for my little family, my extended family, my people, and our just cause. How much time left for me? Or have I already